every step of the way alongside the city, alongside the residents, the companies are getting to know out here at Mesa has been really pleasant and collaborative. So I'm excited to see how this moves forward. My talk tonight, it's 30 minutes on the agenda. I'm going to try to keep my actual remarks to 15 to 20, so there's time for conversation. Somebody check me if I get close to time. I'm a professor, so it can go on. General overview, so a bunch of different components here. We want to talk about the university commitment to the space and the way we like to work with cities, particularly through Melissa Newbrighter's Department of University City Exchange, through government relations, but also just now, I think because we've had so much experience doing this in Phoenix and Scottsdale and other spaces, we're really looking to get on-the-ground engagement between academic programs, faculty, students, and the community in direct and really effective ways. So I'll talk about that a little bit further on. Municipal partnership is pretty straightforward. Main Street Catalyst, we'll talk about what we hope will bring to this area in terms of economic development, cultural participation, and then community engagement directly. I'll have some, hopefully some calls to action. We have some advisory boards for this project we're putting together, like recommendations from the group. And then the Center of Excellence, where we'll talk about the actual building itself, its amenities, the academic programs that's going on, and so on. And then if we have time still, I'll get into the innovation, entrepreneurship, and student family support. So this, to those who are outside the university, and occasionally to those of us who are inside of it, the university charter and our design aspirations can start to seem a little bit like public relations, and they are important in that regard. But it's also a really incredible motivating factor. It's what actually brings many of us here to participate in this university now, and we really believe in it. So this notion of fundamental responsibility for the economic, social, cultural, and overall health of communities we serve is going to show up again and again and again. And it's something that sounds like a public relations line, but it really is something that each one of us wants to implement down to the bottom of everything that we do. Specifically, that breaks that into four of these design aspirations in the work that we're doing here in Mesa. The building itself will be a center for what we call transdisciplinary research, a place where engineering, sustainability, the School for the Future of Innovation in Society, the design of the arts can all come together and take advantage of the technologies that will be built into the building to not just create a great new video game or a great new film, but also to create visualizations of solutions to big problems, new systems for community engagement, for cultural participation, and to get companies engaged in the visualization of new futures. We want this project and everything that we do, as we hopefully see this project go from the stage we're at now with this one facility and some engagement in the Innovation Studios building to being a full-on campus at some point. We've been given that charge by the president. It's obviously years away. We'll see where we go from here. And then use-inspired research. This most particularly connects to this project from the standpoint of being the center of what the mayor has called a digital innovation district. So using the university's research arms and the technology experimentation in this building to incentivize technology industries to be present in downtown Mesa. Big picture, y'all have probably heard about ASU's development of facilities in Washington and Los Angeles. We're also through Thunderbird School of Global Management, locations in Hong Kong, Geneva, Vietnam. I can't even remember them all. So ASU is itself evolving into a global network, and we hope that in some very specific ways to bring that network closer together while also obviously continuing to expand it. Mesa will be an important part of that. We recognize, one of the things that's brought us here is we recognize Mesa is the 36th largest city in the U.S. that no one knows about, the largest suburban city, and a place that's really on the verge of a new era of growth and cultural engagement. So here's the overlap of interest, agendas, and activities. So ASU in this new space will have premier academic programs, industry partnerships, and so on. Mesa full-day activity walkability. We want this space, aside from the 800 plus students that will bring into this location, and the 40, 50 faculty, and so on and so on. It's also a big part of the intergovernmental agreement agreement that's been worked out between the city and the university is a number of public events. So I'll talk more about that as we move along. But we want the whole thing to be a site for activating the fabric of the city that's already here. And that means participation with the businesses that you own and participate in, engagement with residents, and so on. Kind of local network. This isn't all the ASU locations in the valley, but these are the ones we feel like make the most sense and kind of create a system around Mesa. Thought pretty intentionally at this point, although always a little bit based on circumstances at hand. Phoenix is focused on our urban professional programs, nursing, health, law, journalism. Tempe's a comprehensive research university, liberal arts. And then Mesa, we're looking to make a site of visual media innovation and entrepreneurship on top of the existing Mesa campus Polytechnic. Just a history of university municipal partnerships. We've been working closely with the city of Tempe, obviously, since 1958. But I think people forget that SkySong is actually a university project as well. It's now at full tenancy again and is adding 6th or 7th building. I forget where we're at now. So we're talking about a massive economic engine for the city of Scottsdale and for ASU. And then obviously we've had a really successful partnership with the city of Mesa already through the Polytechnic campus, and we want to bring some of those programs closer to the center of population of Mesa through what we do in this new building. Here's a look at the new kind of campus. It's not technically an ASU campus yet. Maybe somewhere down the road, there's some classifications that the Board of Regents requires in terms of things like food service and housing and so on that has to be in place, as well as not yet will an undergraduate student be able to complete their full 4-year degree there, mostly because of the lack of things like food service, advising, counseling, etc. But the campus, it is still effectively a campus, and it is a campus that is with the governmental and cultural facilities there, with Mesa Arts Center, City Plaza, and so on. We really want to honor that ethic. So the design process that's underway, or will get underway here shortly, we're in the middle of the architect selection process. We'll not only look at the building, but also look at the park that's made in Maine, trying to make it a comprehensive civic space. Again, to talk about that, I love the fact that this is a shot of downtown Akron, the ASU train. We really wanted to treat the MAC and the amphitheater and the rest of this as a sort of part of an overall system of cultural hub. I'm on the Mesa Arts Center Foundation board. Had numerous conversations with Cindy Weinstein and the rest of the group about how do we make those things work together. We don't want to create a sense of competition between events, but we want to create a comprehensive calendaring system and really treat it as a system, be able to participate together in things like Southwest Maker Fest, Spark Festival, Creativity, and so on. Speaking of which, community engagement is really going to happen at least 3 levels. So one, at the institutional level, we've already started to build relationships and partnerships where we didn't already have them, which is the West Case we already did, with all of the Mesa existing cultural organizations, events, and institutions. So we are right now in the middle of producing a show with Southwest Shakespeare Festival about Frankenstein that was originated with faculty members of the School for Future Innovation Society. We're participating in Southwest Maker Fest. We participated consistently in the Spark Festival. And right now we're working on new installations for the Idea Museum. We want to ramp that up as we go over the next 3 years until this building is open, and then sustain that activity over time. So you'll start to see more and more ASU participation in things like Main Street Prototyping Festival, Spark, and so on. We also want to make sure that there's roots through to education for students from Mesa Community College in the K-12 environment. So we're working right now on some hackathon gaming activities for students in K-12, and we're in early conversations with Mesa Community College about creating articulation pathways, particularly in film, where students can move directly from their AA degrees in Mesa Community College into finishing their film degrees to start in the building that we're building here. This is the sort of secondary level of community engagement. So we're in the middle of building at least 2 advisory boards, one of which will include representatives from some of the institutions, but also local artists, local architects, downtown business owners, and so on. This is where, after I finish flapping my lips up here, Please come up, see me if you have something you'd like to recommend and you'd like to nominate yourself for participation in this board. We will likely assemble this board late fall, early spring for our first meeting. We're in the middle of, that will be the time when they can engage directly with the architects. They'll be able to engage hopefully with a new director of the facility that we're in the middle of starting to hire, so that may take some time. And then we're also building a national board in these industries. This will have a preference for companies that are already in Mesa to some degree, so finding representatives from a design branding firm or, for example, transportation aerospace. We have some early conversations with Boeing about having a representative on that board as well. And then we're still in discussions about the format this will take, but there will be also likely an entrepreneurship and innovation council that may or may not be the same as a overall digital innovation district council, so we're still looking at that. And Cahoots will be a major partner in that along with ASU Entrepreneurship and Innovation. Moving on to the center of the academic programs and the building itself. We're really looking to this in a single building through the investment made possible by the city of Mesa and then the programming and equipment and stuff that ASU will bring into it. We're really going to leap straight from having gaming programs that are spread over 4 different campuses and film program that right now is in a least kind of semi-mediocre space, to having one of the most, if not the most, premier space for film media, emerging media in the country. So we built this early plan for this building off of exemplars like the University of Southern California, New York University, Carnegie Mellon. We plan to leapfrog from competing in that market to hopefully being right at the top of it in terms of the quality of the facilities, which obviously as a film and theater professor I'm incredibly excited about. This is an early image of the building. Keep in mind, this is just a conceptual master plan image. This may not be what the eventual building looks like, but it represents an approximate massing, what it will look like in terms of number of floors and so on. We also, ever since the first time we interacted with this, the first conversation I was ever involved in, there's this idea of having an actual HD LED screen on the outside of the building that we can use for outdoor screenings, as well as digital signage and so on in the park that is in between it and Main. So just to give you an idea of general size, like I said, we're in the middle of an architect selection process now, so the eventual building may end up looking very different, but it'll be about this size and it'll likely have that screen. All right, in terms of academic programs, we know we have 700 right now students in film and media production that will move here immediately upon the building opening in August of 2021. That group is ready to go. They've been, like I said, in leased space for the last few years. That program is ready to take the next step. We think that changing the facility will move it into the top 10 of film schools nationwide. But we're also looking to create a major center for gaming and emerging media, particularly around virtual reality, augmented reality, blended reality, all the different nomenclature that's out there for those schools. And really start kind of own the field as a university innovator in that area. And then finally, just to take that to the next level, we don't want this to be all focused on creating entertainment. So the idea with that, generally speaking, the first image you get in your mind is creating a film is, a bunch of college students shooting a dorm room comedy or a VR game where you shoot things. So we want to take those technologies and actually leverage them to explore what the next generation hospital rooms might look like in the experience of healthcare, or what does it look like to reimagine a traffic system for all of downtown Mesa. Those same tools, this intersection of film and media, visualization, motion tracking, and spatial sensing, is really at a point where it can not only create entertainment and fun and experience of new universes, but also help solve problems in this. Here is a draft massing first floor plan of the building, just to give a sense of public amenity. Second, third, fourth, fifth floors are all studio spaces, recording studios, sound stages, fabrication labs, production shops. The first floor is really focused on public access. So you'll see, it's hard to read on this projector, but there's a cafe/kitchen, an event and exhibition space, public meeting areas, 2 screening rooms that are essentially movie theaters, high-end movie theaters that also serve as esports sports arenas and public speaking and performance venues. They seat 250 to 400 people apiece. And then teaching production studios, this one's focused particularly on community classes, as well as project laboratory, community and industry liaison spaces. These are meant to create public showcases of work done together with the community or with a corporate partner. So you can imagine, for example, that Rail Mesa, for example, does a project reimagine what a bike sharing service in downtown Mesa looks like. That's really not a good example because bike sharing services are becoming seen more of a nuisance than anything else at this point. But one of those project laboratories could be devoted to pay stubs of here's the work the students are doing, faculty are doing in collaboration with the community partners. That might be the worst extemporaneous example I've ever come up with. So a little bit of a summary here. All these technologies, as seemingly esoteric and out there as they seem, actually not only end up enabling us to be leaders in film and media, but also a place where we can all do all these other things. Really, truly create a center where the digital and the physical come together in a way of imagining new futures. Okay. Just a few things to sum up. In addition to the main building, which I've just talked about, there's also what we're calling, just being called the Innovation Studios. That name fluctuates a bit, and this project's on a different timeline than the main building. But it's taking over the old IT space. It's right there. First and Centennial. Yeah. The historic library that now is at the building. First and Centennial. That will be mostly like a co-working and venture incubation space. We're working with ASU Entrepreneurship and Innovation, Human Choice Shop, as well as Cahoots, and then a local business partner, Ball 2 Studios, Pete Costa, May Costa, Dennis Bonilla's place that's working in immersive audio and virtual reality environments. Finally, just to toss back to one of the things that started this whole conversation was the City of Mesa contracting the Brookings Institution to do an examination of innovation districts and what it would mean for the downtown corridor here to become an innovation district. And the Brookings Institution citing that a research university partner is critical to the existence and the creation of innovation districts. Hi, Jeff, coming in at the end, as always. And we really hope that we're going to bring that intellectual engine, but also that we're going to kind of take it to the next step in terms of that active community engagement. Not just that we're there doing research, but that we're actively engaging with the community and the companies that live downtown in that process. And finally, one thing that is more of a long-term vision, because this first building won't be a comprehensive campus. We really want to focus on being a service to the students and families of downtown Mesa. That'll take some early forms in this building in terms of K-12 engagement, community events, participating in things like Southwest Maker Fest, getting a sense of technology innovation, arts participation, and gendered and available to the population of downtown. Long term, that's going to actually, we really want that to be ASU serving the students, both the graduating high school students and the community college transfer students coming out of Mesa. We have a lot of similarities between the demographic breakdown of ASU and the city of Mesa right now in terms of ASU is a little bit more diverse, but Mesa is changing, and so is ASU. We really want to make sure that we're serving that community culturally in terms of the populations we engage, the people who get to participate, and also the students who get to transfer and be a part of this building and future buildings on the site. I think that's not too bad. We got it right about 20 minutes. Yeah.
Is Prism still there?
Prism's still there. Dan Collins is still running that studio. We actually think Prism may have a space here as well as innovation space, which is runs in that same gamut for us in design school. We're still working out this. We have the university working group that's working on the specific programs other than the required film and digital media art stuff. But yeah, Prism still exists, and we hope that this will help increase the resources available to it. Anybody else?
Can you give me what is the student profile? Are these film media students? Are these undergrads, grads, a mix of both?
Good question. Yes. to start off, it'll be largely undergraduate film students because the one program that currently exists that we know will move in its entirety is the film and media production program. The juniors and seniors in that program. So that'll be in 2021. I would guess based on current trend lines, about 500 students a year that are in the junior and senior that are actively in the space making films, like going out on location in the community, shooting in the sound stages, editing in the labs. That'll be the bulk population up front. Then we have a couple of different programs that are in planning, one of which is a master's degree in digital media arts and sciences that'll be out of our School of Arts, Media, and Engineering. And then a couple of programs that are really too early to name, but are likely more focused on this kind of cross-disciplinary exchange. So programs where students from the School of the Future of Innovation Society, Sustainability, Biological Sciences, School of Space Exploration can engage together in collaborative capstone projects. You will almost never see at this stage in the partnership between the city and the university any freshmen, because the freshman experience is so centered on core courses, advising, residential hall experiences, and living learning communities. But they'll be on most of them Tempe campus and be out here just for special events. If we go to further stages of campus infrastructure out here, then you'll start to see more freshmen once we build those amenities and resources out in this facility.
So for those juniors and seniors, will they be thinking about their academic program? Are they mostly centered around programs that are at this site, or will it be a mix of here in Tempe? Or
the juniors, seniors, and graduate students that are at the site will be at the site for the vast majority of their. So I expect that.
Except for Spanish.
Yeah, right. Based on my personal experience with the film and media production students, they will be in this facility 70 to 80 hours a week during their junior and senior years. That's just how they roll. So they're going to live in this space.
Mostly between 5 p.m. and 5 a.m.?
I would say start at 11 a.m. and go about 2 a.m. Yeah. Generally speaking. Any other questions? Yes.
So what's the ETA and how this is going to start?
Right. The building is slated to be finished in May, June 2021, and then the building will open with its first student class in August of 2021. If nothing changes. Yes.
What about like the employment pipeline for graduates of this program? Have you talked to companies that are interested in having interns or that can use these trained students?
Too early to reveal the companies that we're discussing with, but absolutely in those discussions. I've just 2 weeks ago signed an NDA for one company in terms of early exploration of technology partnerships. We're looking at really 2 or 3 different types of technology partnerships with companies that exist in the media and technology space. One is this sense of workforce development through equipment sponsorship, so being able to make sure that we keep this place future-proofed by them giving us their latest technology so that our students emerge ready to use their gear, right, as this field becomes a little more specialized. Second is new intellectual property and technology transfer, so partnering with companies to actually create new products in the space. And the third is like speculative conceptual research and development. Companies who can do things like send one research and development department head on a corporate sabbatical to live in this building and work with a group of faculty and students, blue sky ideas, and then take that back to where they're at. So there's a couple of different levels for that type of engagement. Yes, sir.
You just mentioned tech transfer. Is all going to be moved, all the technologies going to be moving commercialized through SkySong, or are you going to have a kind of local representation here?
So we want local representation here. That's part of what the Innovation Studio is about. It depends on the scale and the needs of the company that emerges. So if it's a spin-off, it will need to go through SkySong Enterprises because SkySong, what is it called now? It just changed. It went from being Arizona Technology Enterprises to being SkySong Innovations and SkySong Innovations. It will go through SkySong as a company because that's the university's official tech transfer wing. But we hope to encourage and provide space both in this building and the Innovation Studios to cultivate space around it in the downtown facility where companies that emerge, both student ventures and then also spin-offs from faculty, intellectual property development, will stay in the area. Some may move to SkySong because that's the thing that meets their space needs, and that's really just going to be about what's the market look like in downtown Mesa at the time.
I will have perpetual questions. So
yeah, go ahead.
So do you envision how distant future
And it depends on, I think the major factor that's going to really answer that question for us is how the economy does over the next 2 to 7 years. We get into the downturn that can put a block in it for a while. We're going to eventually, so just depends on how long that delay occurs. But if you ask the president of the university, he's like, at the end of 10 years, we're going to have like full campus. But Michael Crow works at the speed the rest of us don't really normally work, so we'll try to aspire to that. Yes?
Just a quick question on transportation. I drive the freeways back and forth, and I see a lot of ASU buses.
Yeah.
Where does light rail fit in as a transportation mode for events or?
This is a really good question and a hot topic of conversation. So we hope that light rail will be the principal mode of transportation for ASU students and faculty coming to this facility. One X factor there is the Polytechnic campus. We really want to make sure that the Polytech students and faculty have a way of engaging in this building. And then since there's no light rail out there, it will likely end up on some version of the ASU shuttle line that runs between the campuses. Whether that means a redesign of that whole shuttle system, or whether it's just suddenly there's an additional stop, we don't know yet.
I will add that it is faster to go to ASU by light rail from downtown Mesa than it is to drive.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That nobody can contest. We expect that
Significantly cheaper.
we expect that the vast majority of students and faculty moving between here and Tempe and downtown Phoenix will be light rail. It's just Polytechnic throws that one wrong part for us. There was another question for you, sir?
Yeah. What's on the property again?
Parking lot. Yes, the parking lot right behind it. Sorry. Oh yeah. Let's see. Is this space right here?
I'm going to go back to the slide.
Yeah, I can go back to the. Go back to the first slide. Yeah, here we go. So this site right here is the building. This is the old IT building / library. This is First Centennial. Everybody see that? Yeah, this side. Is that? Sorry?
It's the rear entrance to City Hall and the back entrance to the IT building.
Right.
No, except for IT goes in it.
Oh yeah. Sorry for that. One second. Just to make absolutely clear. There we go. So this is Centennial Pepper. This is City Plaza. This is the building. Yes, sir.
So they don't plan on demolishing the old library?
No, I think it's been, it's a deemed historic building, there's no way to. Yeah, not that anybody wants to, but there's another plan for it. Other
We
questions?
still have more things.
Thank you very much. Oh, you want to go?
No, I keep going.
Yeah, go for it.
So one of the sort of like the tugging actions that are happening in downtown Phoenix is between the community and ASU downtown. And that's a much bigger behemoth and so much bigger issues, and so little things escalate a lot more. But some of the initial issues that were happening were sort of like this push and pull between what downtown Phoenix residents call Fortress ASU. And where please stay out was the comment that they felt was put by ASU. And then we've been talking from the front end, how do we include community in not just the building, but ASU into our community, sort of like the downtown campus. And then the second part is the same thing about downtown businesses, restaurants, coffee shops, and things like that. How do our business owners, our local business owners, access and benefit from ASU students and vice versa?
Yeah, go for it. Great farmer experiences.
Yeah, so I spent 30 years working for the city of Phoenix, so I was on the receiving end as ASU was coming downtown, also a downtown resident, and kind of went through that process as a city employee, and now as a resident of downtown Phoenix, I still go through that process, and it's really interesting becoming a community with a university at the center of it, because the community existed before the university came in, right? And so one of the things that we try to do, that we need to do is communicate and connect, and this is just the beginning of that. We intend to do that both on the design of this building, but more importantly, we want to connect with the community on a much broader basis in terms of planning and all the big and little things that happen in university and community planning and university and community interfaces. I'll give you a couple of examples of things that happen in downtown Phoenix that, just people weren't ready for, and they're sort of unanticipated in some ways, but we learned from that. So as an example, the restaurants in downtown Phoenix all had menus that students couldn't afford, and they were frustrated that students didn't come and eat lunch at their restaurants. Well, we didn't have that dialogue about that ahead of time, and nobody was really thinking about that. I mean, people have now adjusted and new restaurants have come in and that kind of thing. But something little like that can be a real turnoff in a relationship when we're coming down, we promised all this activity and new business, and students were making their lunch because they couldn't afford the lunch prices in downtown. So as a business community, for instance, people need to start to think about that. Another one had to do with community. As we designed our buildings, there were a lot of issues with community access to the buildings. We want our buildings to be accessible to the community, and particularly because in the case of Phoenix and here too, the community's paying to build the buildings. But the communities also need to be usable and safe for the students, faculty, and staff who are in them. So how do you balance those things? And it's been a process. I mean, because we had to trespass people who were trying to live in our buildings. We had to put up signs that say, you must have an ASU purpose to be in the building, because that was the only way we could legally tell people you can't be here when they were disrupting, the fundamental activity of the building. And the community's response, the neighborhood's response to that was naturally, how come you're shutting us out of these buildings? And we're not trying to shut out the neighborhood, but we're trying to shut out disruptive activities that made it difficult for us to do the fundamental purpose of teaching and research and that kind of thing. So so we want to work with you on all that, and we've learned a lot in the process. I also want to introduce Melissa McCann, who's here, who introduced herself earlier. Melissa is with a group at the university called the University City Exchange, and her boss, Duke Ryder, is the head of that unit, and he was involved in the planning of all the buildings downtown, really the visioning for not just the first building, but the campus. And we really want to work with the community, not just on planning our building or what's to come in the future in our buildings, but to connect with you and partner with you in the planning and the future of your entirety of your downtown community. We don't just care about our buildings or our students or our faculty and staff, as was said in the mission. We care about the community, and so Melissa and Duke and other people in the university, myself, will be very engaged and involved in working with all of the development that happens as a result of us being here, and all of you and all the businesses to create those partnerships. And likewise, Ward, his job is working as a community relations and government relations person for the university. So if your business has an idea for partnering with the university or discounts for students or whatever, Ward is going to be your key input and connector to the university. So Jake's going to be focused on what's happening in the building programmatically and partnerships with that. But there's so much more to us being around. So we want to connect with you in many, many different ways. And actually, you should definitely get to know Ward, because he's going to be the person that has always been and will continue to be, Mesa's connection to the university writ large. So hope that's helpful.
No, I really appreciate that. Thank you. I will also add that what you're proposing at the first, so day one of the bringing all the film students is slightly larger than Benedictine University is now. And so that will basically double the number of students down here. And I know that it hasn't been a big impact to have about 400 students from Benedictine. But I'm hoping with about 1,000 students by then, we'll start to see a lot more activity. And then with the growth of both campuses, we should see that sort of, a lot more of those things. But I'm not seeing, like, downtown Phoenix is 7,000 students.
12 now.
12,000 students. Slightly more than 7. So downtown Phoenix, even though it's a much larger community, 12,000 students is a very big impact. We're smaller, but I think 1,000 students between the two universities will be much more, not quite as visible, but hopefully we get to grow that with both universities so we can grow together.
Yeah. And I should say that 500 is a conservative estimate for that first year. It'll likely be closer to 8, and it has to be 8 by the end of the third year based on our